Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to 365 My Life. Hello, 30s. I'm your host, Shamira, and in this episode of this journey that we're taking, there's a lot to discuss. One being, I recorded a whole episode, and guys, it was on fire. I felt it. It was emotional. It was just amazing. And then when I clicked on my recording device, and I'm talking about on the computer, it disappeared. So, when things like that happen, you just got to take a step back and sit down and say, you know what? Was it meant to go out to the masses, or was it just the enemy? Well, don't worry. I will be sharing that again. Sharing what I learned this past week, and hopefully it will resonate with you guys. So as you should know, I'm trying to do these little podcasts once every week so that we can discuss certain tactics to get us going from point A to point B. And in this particular podcast, I'm just going to get straight to the point, and then I'm going to go into my preaching. So if you want to stay for the preaching, I highly suggest you do. But this podcast is about creating an operational calendar. And one thing I have learned in my career, having a calendar for your life is very important. Why? Because you get to see what things, if I'm saying that right, you get to see things that are coming up that you need to prepare for, right? So for example, you might need to renew your license, your car license, or it can be like a membership license that might be a significant amount of money. You got to prepare for that. Doctor's appointments, you have to prepare for that. Seasonal events. These might seem very small and you can just ride the wave when it comes, but it's really healthy to start that practice of having like an operational calendar so that you can see your year at a glance. So I like to start in January, even though I start my 365 My Life journey in November, but I start my operational calendar in January. I guess it really doesn't matter when you start it, but just put the dates or events that may be happening throughout the year. So I found for myself that January has a lot of financial things that just come out, like a lot of memberships renew during that time. And it makes sense because it's kind of like, oh man, I'm so motivated. I want to subscribe to this. And next minute, a couple years later, you realize you have thousands of dollars going out January 1st. So sometimes you just got to iron out the dough a little bit, right? Smooth out the dough and maybe do a membership or renew a membership later on in the year so it won't financially hurt you. So that is an operational calendar, and a lot of businesses use it, especially anything in real estate, because you have to really keep in mind of the taxes that's coming up. Also insurance. These are big things that happens in a business, like a budget, and you can't miss those dates. So when you have an operational calendar, it's a good practice to apply it to your life so that I can't miss the date of having a budget for my life done. I can't miss the date of, having this particular event done or being prepared for this event, because it really does matter. Now, in 365 My Life, even though it's all about planning and just putting your ducks in a row, I like to still live in the present, right? And it's a thin line between doing things and thinking that, oh wow, I'm doing things really great and I'm handling my business, which feels good because you're accomplishing something, but you also should rely on God to lead you in everyday things. So that's the preachy side of me. And granted, I did 365 My Life because I was in a severe depression. Didn't have really any goals. I did have goals. I had a lot of them, but it was just I was stuck, right? And I was in a stuck depression, and doing this method got me out of my Great Depression. But at the end of the day, if you're ever in that situation, No one can help you but yourself. And that was one thing I had to realize. My mom couldn't help me. My dad couldn't help me get out my funk. Siblings, friendships, no one could help me with the pain, only God. And also, I needed to take that step. I was the only person that could do the action. And the action in having faith and taking the step. And also, God has led me to do those things. And guys, it's a journey. So yes, that is the operational calendar. I know it's very short, not too much detail, straightforward, but it's very important. You can definitely go to my website, download a operational calendar, and also, guys, join my courses. I have courses that lay out everything from from point 1 to all the way to Z or something, so A to Z. So definitely check those out. It's only $17, I believe, with the discount, but as high as $20.99, and that's not bad at all. Okay, now let's get into the nitty gritty, and I'm hopefully, that this doesn't cut off. So I'm actually going to have you guys listen to a quick commercial break, and I'm going to start again because I do not want this to cut off like it did before. See you soon.
Adam. When God created the heavens and the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. Within 6 days, the earth was created with mankind in mind, for mankind is forevermore created in the image of God. The whole earth belonged to mankind, and this authority made other creations jealous of you. But Adam, you sinned. This is why you remain outside of the Garden of Eden. Your desires are not aligned with God's desires, but your desires align with those who have chosen to rebel against God. Adam, that is the mission of mankind.
Okay, and we are back, and it didn't cut off, so I'm happy. So it is time to get into the nitty gritty of Life Update in this segment. This segment is basically just giving you a life update, and we're going to talk about certain things in the Bible, read the word a little bit, and see how we can apply it to our life. I don't know if you followed me online, but recently I rededicated my life to Christ. I always been a Christian. My mission is to do Christian film. I love Jesus with all my heart. Anyone you talk to that know me, they know that Shamira is definitely into Christian film, and this is what she's been doing. So how could somebody like that have to rededicate themselves to Christ? Well, I'll tell you. When you're on this go-go mission and you're called, sometimes you get distracted and start, relying on man, right? When I say man, talking about mankind, people, words, suggestions, recommendations, etc. And sometimes you might think, oh, well, maybe God wants me to go in this direction because it's a divine connection, right? But guys, at the end of the day, no. And I decided to read Chronicles, and I'm so glad I did because I've been on this journey of reading Genesis. And Genesis is great because I'm doing, as you heard in the trailer, I'm actually doing a podcast, and it's more of a drama mystery type of thing, thriller of the book of Genesis, basically of Adam and Eve before and after the garden. So anyway, I read a lot of the Old Testament because I love the Old Testament, and I never read really and when I say I've never read, I have read past Chronicles and beyond, but I never consumed it because there's a difference. It's something when you read or you read, if that makes sense. You read or you read it, okay, but then do you read it? It's a big difference. So this time around, I just felt I'm going to read Chronicles because I just want to catch up before I get into the next chapter. Chronicles actually tells you everything in short bite sizes. So that's what I did. And, I read the journey of David, heard the story in Kings, Samuel, multiple times. So it was great to get the little bite-sized stories and the children thereafter. But one thing that really stood out to me that I haven't seen before, and I think because Chronicles is written in like bite-sized messages, it was like plain as day. And just to give you the story, David became king after Saul disobeyed God and basically started doing his own thing, which is interesting because, come on, y'all. If we saw God doing miracles and all the clouds and talking, I mean, wouldn't you serve him? Like, you already know that there is a God. I would not disobey him. But I guess they are human. And Saul basically disobeyed God. So David comes up and God basically says to David, look, any war that you encounter, you will be victorious in. You will win every single war. If you keep my statutes, if you do X, Y, and Z and serve me, you would not lose a war because I'm with you. So that was David's track record. He knew that he had God with him. So David was just walking in and just winning, right? And have we ever been in a situation where we just winning in life? Like, we always get the calls back. We walk in, get the interview, get the job. We're like, we get the man, you get the girl. Like, you just winning and you feel good. And I feel like that's how our 20s are. Like, you're just winning. You're young, you're new, you're fresh. People believe that you're the future. Everything is happening. So now we get to David. And in this particular war, it's a little different. Because instead of just walking in and just winning, the door is a little harder to open, if that makes sense. So you just like open the door, but now the door is a little jammed. And David is in this war with Israel. And the scripture says, and this is 1 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 1. Now Satan stood up against Israel and moved David to number Israel. And that hit me, y'all. It hit me tremendously. And I'm going to explain why. Because so often when we're winning and we got God on our shoulders and we got God have our backs and we actually experience miraculous things that God has done in our life, some way, somehow, when one thing gets tough, one thing start pushing against us, we start counting the money in our bank accounts, right? We start counting how many friends we have, how many backup. We start counting around us. And even though when we've been in these situations before, we never had to starve. We never had to want for anything, especially if you are a servant of Christ, like especially that you are called by him and he has done miraculous things in your life. We never had to want for anything, you know? So Satan stood up against Israel and pushed back. And the war was a little tougher than usual. And David commanded one of his, soldiers or someone and said, hey, I need you to go ahead and count Israel. Go count the tribes and how many men we have left. And the soldier said to him, wait a minute. If we lose 500,000 men, God will replace 500,000 men. And that's what he reminded David about. Like, what are you doing? Why are we counting? We don't need to count. Because God would still prevail in us. Like God, we have God on our side. We will still prevail. But David pushed back and commanded the guy to go count how many people. So I can go on and on because after that, of course, God was furious. He was upset because it's like you allow Satan to get in your mind, and the fear of the toughness of things that's happening around you, the fear of it all, and you allow Satan to like conquer your mind in that split second. Like, how dare you, you know? And I can't understand why God was mad, because it's like, you won how many wars before this one? and you just allow this creature to just make it hard. And instead of you get on your knees and pray and asking God to give you the strength to make it through, you decided to count. How many people do I have in my circle? How much money do I have in my bank account? Can I do this? Can I do that? Ooh, it's getting tight, right? That one scripture really changed my life. And at that moment, y'all, it just hit me, because it's like, wow, I've been counting. I've been counting the likes, counting the follows, counting the people around me, just counting the years, counting my time, and as you get in your 30s, you start counting a lot. You become a mathematician or something. Mathematician, I can't even say the word. But you become very smart, because you're like, look, I'm counting the money, I'm counting everything around me, But there's another, in Chronicles, there's furthermore, in Second Chronicles, and this is with King Asa, or Asia, Asa, and God gave him the same thing. Said, hey, you will win with me. If you could, and by this time, there was no law, there was no prophet that teaching the word. It was just empty, right? Because after like David and Solomon and all this stuff, it just went chaos. But God reveals himself to Asia, because I think God saw his heart. And he said, hey, if you keep my word, if you follow my statutes, I will X, Y, and Z, And in that moment, Asia removed all this, like the idols from the temples and all this stuff, because he was like, we're going to have God on our side. Well, so something so simple that we might think, during his business dealings, he went to the king of Syria, and he did a barter. He was like, hey, I need some men, I need this, I need that. And, if you sign this decree with me, and not sign it with this person, and, we can team up and we can have a bigger army together, because he was operating in fear, because his army wasn't as big. So he went to a different area to team up with them. And God was furious, because he was like, man, dude, you literally conquered a year or so ago, a whole area with more armies, more people with chariots, and I led them in your hand. Yet you go to over here asking for assistance when you have me as God. And God was like, you know what? You will be in your enemy's hands. That's where you want to be. There you go. And it just hits, it hits a little different. And I guess what we need to focus on, especially if you're a Christian, and especially if you are at this point where you're like, you know what, I give up. I've been doing it my way. It's not working my way. God, I need to rest. You can let it rest in God. Let it rest in God. So I'll give you a testimony that recently happened to me. So during my rededication to the Lord, right after, I really I really did a 360. I was like, I'm tired of, the things on the list that we have, which planting is really good. You plant seeds, guys. I believe that, because I got out of my depression with that. So that was a vision that God gave me. But we can't be slaves to it, right? It cannot be our king. We have to go to God about a lot of stuff. So that's why I said it's a thin line in the very beginning of this talk. But a lot of desires I have, as a woman in her 30s, her mid 30s now, I just feel like I don't see them. And I just got to the point, guys, I just don't care anymore. I'm like, I really gave it to God. I gave all the fears and the desires and the wish list and everything. I gave it to God, and I feel much better. And so I was in my apartment, And my apartment is, I love my area. If you ever, like speak to me and we talking about areas, like I'll just tell you everything about my area. But I love my neighborhood. Everything's close. Everything's walking distance. Love it. I stayed in the studio. And in my particular area, the rent is affordable for me, I would say, for me. And I did not want to move. I didn't want to move, but the noise upstairs, guys, when you're in the studio and you have like a whole family upstairs, it's annoying. And as a writer and a deep thinker, OMG, right? But I prayed. I said, you know what? I prayed. I put my seeds out there after I prayed, and I asked God. I said, God, where am I gonna go from here? Because I am ready to like move, but I was like, I'm ready, Lord. I'm just kind of like, I don't know where I'm gonna go from here. So I prayed, and then I, put some action towards, looking at different places and seeing like, okay, what's my budget, right? But in that moment, and this is not the first time, but not in that same moment, but a couple of days later, and not the first time, I had a backup in my bathroom. It's not the first time. I'm at the bottom of the stack, and if you ever experience a backup, it is not pretty. It was disgusting, and this was the worst of the worst. And it was so disgusting, I was like, I demand to be, like, y'all need to transfer me. So, this is not the first time. I am actually recording this in a hotel room because, this is my second time being in a hotel room for them to fix a backup. But this one was much worse. And they said, well, we will have to find a place, but, we understand your frustration. And I just thank God I took video and pictures, because I don't feel like pictures, video. I don't feel like pictures would have gave it justice, because other times I took pictures and people were like, oh, okay. But when you do video, you like, oh, you want to throw up, right? Because it's disgusting. So, and it's a health hazard too. And I was like, you guys cannot put me back into the same space. So, I prayed and I asked God to turn the hearts of those people. And, and because there's one particular person whose heart is very hard. And I feel like it's just heart of jealousy. And I prayed. And when I got it, finally, they said, okay. And I went to see the new place. And, with the same price range. And I was like, that was my biggest thing, because California is expensive. And I'm like, Jesus, you obviously want me here because you be making it work. But I was able to move into this one bedroom from studio. And the girl said to me, she said, girl, it's like a blessing, because if there was another studio, we would have to move you into that studio. But like, because this is the only available unit in the building, a one bedroom, then we had to move you in here. And I was like, praise Jesus. And it goes back to, we don't have to worry, we don't have to faint, we don't have to like scream, stomp our fingers, demand who we are and recite our name of who we are, because God has our back, especially when you really give him everything. Like, I really gave it, I gave it. I'm so tired. I'm like, God, I can't do this on my own. I tried. I was trying to check the boxes on a lot of personal things, but I'm just exhausted and tired. And I just want to focus on you, really. Like, I just want to just be in your presence at the end of the day. Filmmaking, non-filmmaking, I just want to be in God's presence, because that's where I feel the most comfortable and safe. And I didn't even have to lift a finger. Everybody's business was in my apartment. And that was the end of the story right there. So anyways, thank you guys for listening to my testimony. I hope you guys found some information or felt like this episode was good. And if you like it, make sure you like, even share. Also, visit our website, 365mylife.com. Also, subscribe to or follow the new podcast, The Mission of Mankind. I will be talking about a lot about Adam and Eve, specifically Adam by himself and specifically Eve by herself. And I feel like that would be a great message for anybody who wants to listen. So, all right. Hopefully this one passed through, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.